Kevin Stefanski.
Yeah.
Big-time performance.
Let me say this, guys. You know, when the season started, everybody knew Kevin Stefanski was on the hot seat, right? He. If you looked at any odds of first coach to get fired, he was near the top. Mm-hmm. Now, if the season ended today, he wouldn't win Coach of the Year, but he'd be in the conversation. He'd be top 5. I mean, I think right now you have to give it to probably DeMeco Ryans with Houston.
I mean, Dan Campbell's going to get votes.
DeMeco Ryans done a
Mike
magnificent
McDaniel.
job.
Tomlin's in the discussion, too, honestly.
Tomlin?
I mean, yeah.
Kenny Pickett, they've been outgained in every game. Yeah.
But Kevin
Stefanski's in that conversation.
Group. Yes.
He's not in the other, despite the fact that every time the Browns offense doesn't play well for a minute, everybody goes nuts. So, G, you're one of those people that goes nuts for every time he doesn't play well, every time the offense doesn't play well.
Yeah.
So, go ahead. Give us your thoughts on Stefanski.
I thought Stefanski, well, first of all, at the end of the half, I was going crazy. I'm like, bro, what are we doing here? That being aside, like, when you look at what he was able to do in that second half, I thought he stood with, in key situations, the run game. And I thought Jerome Ford, he had gave up on him a little bit. He was tiptoeing, dancing the last couple of weeks. He was hitting it up in the middle, and he did a good job of 6 yards per carry. He did a great job in moving the pile. He did a great job of getting north and south. I thought he did a great job. 31-17 is where I give Kevin Stefanski credit. How many people, to give it context, I think that was right after they had fumbled the ball, right? That was after the fumble. They kept calling penalties on the Browns, holding penalties, and it took them a while, but Baltimore finally punches it in and gets the touchdown, 31-17. At that point, in my mind, Stefanski could have went full-blown 5-wide Stefanski. Like, yeah, we're going to throw this football. We're going to throw it all around the park. We need to get these points. And I'm imagining to myself, he's in his press conference saying, I was chasing points there. You know, we're down 31-17. We got to kind of throw the football. But no, to my surprise, he stayed with mixing it up. And for once, I actually think that Kevin Stefanski is actually seeing himself grow and say, you know what? Maybe we ain't to throw it around the park all four-wide team. You know what? Maybe what we do is what best is mix it up. And Jerome Ford is having a good day. Let's see if we can go to Njoku. Let's see if we can dump it down. And by the way, he did another great job at the beginning of the year. We talk about those check down routes, right? The check and go routes where David Njoku is chipping and then getting in the flats. They're now taking those yards. And then Njoku's getting those yards and he's giving you yards after catch. So I thought he did a good job of staying to who he was. And even when he could have got pass happy, he stayed true to the run game. He threw those in. He worked in the pass. And I just think if Deshaun Watson had a great second half, you also have to say that Kevin Stefanski had a great second half because he did a good job of calling the plays, going to things and dialing up some things that'll work.
He protected Deshaun with 2 tackles who are not starting tackles in the NFL. That alone is worthy of praise. But the one thing that he did in the beginning that really stood out to me, so second play of the game, Deshaun throws a pick 6. You know, we all saw it, and you all think it's disaster. And I put the binoculars on Kevin, and he came out on the field, and he's like, okay, we're good. And it seems small in the moment, but even Deshaun said, you know, he came over the sideline, looked at AVP like, are you effing kidding me? Like, again? Seriously, again? Because he did it against Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And the cart got off the rails when it happened, and they were able to keep it together. And for Kevin to just come out in the field and say, hey, we're good. We're okay. You know, it's not ideal, but we're going to be fine. And it's that even keel about him. We've talked about it for years. This is an organization that is not even. This is an organization that's one of the most emotional ownership all over the place in the league. So you need that steady hand guiding the ship, and that's what he is. And Bull, you and I have been huge Kevin supporters, sort of in the storm, saying, guys, this is not what's wrong with this team. He is not what's wrong with this team. And I think these last few weeks he's been able to show that. And the creativity with, you know, we talked about it last week. You got to go jumbo. And it's not pretty, but, you know, sometimes the offense calls for screens, extra linemen. They had 7 linemen in on some of those goal line plays. 7 linemen.
Forced the Ravens to call a timeout at one point.
Yeah. And then they go empty, and Deshaun has a clear path right to stroll right in for a 2-point conversion out of an empty set. So, you know, the creativity is there. The calmness is there. I've always thought he's an NFL head coach. I've always sort of believed in him and thought he was the right guy for the job. I absolutely think that's still true. I think he's deserving of an extension. I think he'll get an extension after the season. And I just really like sort of where this is all headed with him in charge.
I like the fact, just really quickly before you go, Boo, I just love the fact that we had expected Joe Bitonio to be at left tackle, right? To have the faith enough to say, no, let's go with this guy. Out of nowhere.
On the broadcast, they mentioned Hudson quite a bit. Christian didn't get mentioned at all.
At all.
He seemed to have played pretty well.
He gave up a few.
Yeah.
He
But what do you expect?
Yeah, I mean, he played well enough.
Yes.
He certainly
Under
did.
the circumstances.
And he had some experience. He's been, even though we had not heard of him, at least I hadn't.
Yeah.
After you looked up about him, he'd started some games in the NFL.
Oh, by the way, Nick Harris, when your contract is up, you holler at your boy G. Bush, because I'm going to tell you how this works here. See, now, even you're doing you a favor, because now when you go to the table, you're going to say, how many snaps did I have at fullback and tight end?
That's right, I'm a fullback too.
I'm a fullback right now, and guess what? Because they could have put Nick Harris at guard and switched to Bitonio, but he's doing such a great job at fullback, and he's such a big part of their pool game and leveraging and chipping. They got him. They kept him at fullback.
And by the way, since we're talking about it, Kevin said he knew Monday or Tuesday he was starting Christian at left tackle. So they just did a nice job of keeping it in house.
They did.
But it was, and I think I texted you guys. I told you Christian's lining up on whatever day I was out there. Thursday I was out there at practice. So they knew early in the week this is how they were going to line up and they were going to do it. It really wasn't, I don't think, much of an internal debate of moving Joel and everything else.
Right.
We had that conversation, but I think they knew all week what they were going to do.
Go ahead, Mike, because I want to jump into this, but I know you
I just want to say, G, real quick, if you're negotiating Nick Harris's contract, that's the wrong way to go because only one fullback gets paid in the NFL right now. So you're going to tell him to negotiate for a position that's dead. He's actually going to get paid more.
Slash tight end. Slash
a hybrid, the H-back. I love that. And, Bo, before you go, I just want to show this one block because Christian deserves a ton of credit. James Hudson also – I thought played it wasn't great, but played an admirable job filling in. And then there was this whole play, and I loved him flexing over after Teller comes and pancakes Owafe, or Owafe, however you pronounce his name. It was a physical game, and the Browns were the physical initiator. Yeah. And that's something I don't think we've seen from a lot of Kevin Stefanski in the past.
And by the way, before I give you my thoughts on Kevin Stefanski, let me just say that we've talked about the records we've broken. If you're watching the show right now, stick with us. We are this close to going over 5,000 people watching at one time. We've had thousands and thousands of people watch us over 24 hours. We've never had 5,000 people watching at once on this show. And we are just about 200 away from that. So tell your friend, your cousin, your uncle. Hit that like button.
Your neighbor.
Hit that like button. We're almost halfway to our goal already, and we're less than 40 minutes into the show. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so already. You know why you should subscribe? Because the Browns are going to be good for a number of years, and because they have a very good coach. And for the doubters out there, this is why I believe, because Kevin Stefanski showed you once again what he is able to overcome. They have overhauled the offense, right? They're playing completely differently. From the second the season started, you had Jack Conklin get hurt. You had Nick Chubb get hurt. You had Deshaun Watson get hurt. He's still not 100%. Then you have Jed Wills get hurt. Then you have your backup right tackle, who you didn't even know if he could play before the season started. He's played really well, and now you have him get hurt. Mm-hmm. You had guys that you thought could be a bigger impact than Elijah Moore, guys like that. You traded Donovan Peoples-Jones, and yet you're finding ways every week, differently every week, different teams. You've beaten the three best teams you've played. The Niners, the Ravens, the Bengals. You're 3-1. 3-1 against the three best teams on your schedule right now. Now, you got to beat the Steelers because you lost to them, and they're the fourth best team on your schedule. You look at the rest of the schedule, you got 8 games left, 4 against really bad teams. The other 4, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, Jacksonville, Houston, certainly much better than we thought they'd be.
Houston is coming out of nowhere.
And that game will be tough. But think about this. The Browns are going to be favored in at least 6 of their final 8 games. They'll be favored in all 4 of those games. As of today, they'd be favored in all 4 of these games. The only games they will be an underdog in, as of today, they'd be a slight dog in Cincinnati. Maybe they'd be a dog against the Texans, maybe by a point.
I think they
might be a pick 'em.
Yeah, pick 'em or maybe half.
The biggest dog right now, if you made the spreads for the Browns games the rest of the season, they're probably a 3-point dog at Cincinnati.
And that game, it probably will come down to, well,
we'll see. We'll see what happens. That's it. The Browns will be favored in at least 6, maybe 7 as of today. So they're in good shape. And part of that is their coach. Kevin Stefanski is a very, very good coach. Did any of us like the way he handled the end of the first half? Of course not. There were some mistakes made there. And Jason and I were talking about this before the show. If you watch every coach in the NFL, and that includes Belichick, it includes Reed, any of them, and I'm not saying he's Belichick or Reed. I'm saying even though he's not those guys, he's as good as most of the others, if not better, and probably better than many of the others. If you watch every single play of the Patriots, the Chiefs, the Bengals, trust me, you'll find a couple of plays here and there, and in a lot of coaches, like the Chargers and some of these other yo-yos, you'll find a lot more. There's always going to be one or two plays where you're like, what are you doing, coach?
Yeah.
It's always going to happen. But consistently, especially this year, when his offense has been destroyed by injuries, he has found a way to lead the team. They've played their ass off. And outside of the first Raven game, I didn't think they came to play.
There was a lot going on.
There was a lot going on. Outside of that game, they've come to play every week, and they have been. This is the most physical Browns team I can remember in decades.
And real quick, let's cover the end of the half because I think that there is an explanation behind it. I didn't like the play call when he threw it. I thought you should run it there. What were they looking at? 59, 60-yard field goal, I think.
60, yeah.
Just run it. You have a timeout. Yep. Run it, pick up 3 or 4 yards,
and give it a shot.
Make it a little bit more manageable. When they decide to throw it and it's incomplete, the reason he called timeout and switched it, he didn't really say this, but he kind of said it. The Ravens set up for a return because with the kick that long, you assume if there's any chance of it falling short, you can catch it, return it. Remember the Auburn-Alabama game from a few years ago. And when you were in that position, you got a lot of big fat guys on the field, and they're not that fast. So it's actually easier to return a kick that long. So I think when he saw them setting up for a return, he said, you know what, we're not going to take that chance. Not to mention, I think there's 7 seconds left still. Another reason to run it because you could run it down.
Kick the field goal.
Well, you could run it down to 2 or 3 seconds and make sure that's the last play. But with 7, if Baltimore blocks it, you give Justin Tucker a shot at some crazy one the other way. So for those reasons, I think he just changed his mind when he saw Baltimore line up or set up for a return. But if you run it there, whatever. But that's the type of nitpicking that you could do with every
any
team
coach.
In the league.
And you're right. He calculated that the odds of what could go wrong on a 60-yard field goal attempt was a higher percentage than him making that kick. As good as he's been, a 60-yard field goal
outdoors
in Baltimore.
And there wasn't a lot of wind, but because what did he make in Indy? He made like 58 or 59 in Indy, I think.
Right, but that's an
indoors. But that was indoors.
Yeah,
this is outdoors, not a lot of wind, but it's still outside.
Yeah.
So, and ultimately, I mean, if that's the thing you're going to gripe about, then you're a miserable person. You have no life.
And so you saying G's a miserable person? Yeah. He's not a miserable person.
Yeah, he came around. G's coming around. We're like Novocaine. We're wearing him down. Sooner or later, we'll wear him down.
Well, I think what it is listen, here's the thing. G is a diehard fan, so you're emotional in the moments. Right. Of course, in the moments, you're going crazy. The coach is an idiot. The referee's cheating. We all lose our minds in those moments.
And when you used to play, like you be in the moment, from second to second. If I don't like, I used to go to the sideline and tell my offensive coordinator, I'm like, listen, man, we supposed to be running X, Y, and Z. We ran that in practice all week, coach. And like when you're a player and your coaches is going back and forth, that's why you get people getting arguments and be testy on the sidelines because everybody is invested in winning and everybody thinks that they know what's best for winning. But yeah, I'm a diehard fan. Like, I mean, I got a bunch of Cleveland Browns rally flags in my house that I purchased that are just hundreds of thousands of dollars in my house. I cannot not be a fan for the Cleveland Browns. What are you talking about?
How could you not? I mean, like, this is a happy moment. I honestly, even though the Bengals lost a heartbreaker, I was in a great mood yesterday because I was so excited that the Browns won. And which again, I know people don't get it. I don't get it either. But and I went 5-0 in fantasy football. All 5 of my teams won. 5-0 when I beat G. Bush.
And I was pissed off yesterday.
I beat G. Bush, baby.
Oh my God! I was looking at that game. I said, "Oh, he's on." Listen, I'm looking at in our league. It's kind of hard to score.
Yeah.
So when I go down looking, Brock Purdy 20-something. I'm like, you doggone snake.
I think I started Noah Brown.
And he hit. I'm like, man.
Go ahead, Mike.
We'll wrap up Stefanski with this, then we'll talk a little defense, then get to some unsung heroes of the Browns. But we said before the season, he didn't really have that true signature win because the playoff win, he had COVID, he wasn't even on the sidelines, and some people don't really credit him for that. Then he beat San Francisco. We're like, that could be a signature win.
Right.
And then he did what he did yesterday in Baltimore, come from behind victory. Of those two options, which one was the more impressive victory from Kevin Stefanski's standpoint?
I think it was this game. I mean, in a way, I could argue the Niner game because they won it with P.J. Walker.
Yeah,
so that's the only thing that gives me pause here. But the Ravens were, and the Niners had been at the time we thought they were the best team in football.
Here's the difference.
Yeah.
In the Niners game, they were holding on for dear life, and they won because of a missed kick at the end.
Right.
You get extra credit for P.J. Walker. This is a divisional game.
Right.
On the road, and you had to drive the offense down the field to win it.
And,
so for those reasons, it's this one.
And no excuses, but still, I'll make an excuse for San Francisco. They lost McCaffrey. Right?
Yeah.
They lost McCaffrey.
Yeah.
He's their best player. And they lost their left tackle. The Ravens didn't lose any of their offensive players.
If we're talking about this in terms of Kevin and which one is more significant to Kevin, he's the offensive coordinator. He's the play caller.
Yeah.
So it's this one because it's the divisional game. It's on the road, and you had to drive the field.
Agreed.
He managed the clock perfectly at the end of the game. He left no time for Baltimore to go the other way. San Francisco, you're holding on to your butt and hoping they miss a kick at the end. And even though it was with P.J. Walker, you get massive points for that. Massive points for that. But because of what was at stake, I think it's this.
I think when you why this is so important is you get this game in the beginning of a 2-game, I guess battle in the AFC North, and now you got Pittsburgh, right? I'd argue that this might be a bigger Pittsburgh game. I don't want to say the playoff win. I don't want to say that because
you still had to beat Pittsburgh that last week of the regular season to get to the playoffs.
Get to the play. But this here is monumental because of the simple fact that before it was COVID, we weren't in the stands. It was weird. It was strange. And I'm not taking anything away from them. But the hype around this game this week feels like a playoff game already.
Can I tell you something else that's crazy, speaking of which? If the Browns beat Pittsburgh on Sunday, forget talking about playoffs. We got to start talking about, forget even winning the division. We can start having conversations about being the number 1 seed if they beat Pittsburgh.